a light night.
It's the summer. Summer's like that.
I don't recall that.
Let's go to the audio tape.
I remember that conversation different.
Let's go to the replay. Time to go silent. It's amazing what we're waking up.
One awesome thing about this is the camera sticks out.
Why does it have to stick out?
I don't know. It's one thing that's right now. I'm going to buy a case just because
Scratch it up.
No, the wobbling's driving me nuts already. I got a screen protector at the front first.
That doesn't have the kickstand, does it?
No.
I completely
That's the
missed
evil.
my BlackBerry.
The R207 has that.
Really?
This thing is,
It's the older model. I mean, if you had the
It's
newer
so
one,
slow.
probably.
Oh,
it's like you click on it.
You
I
still
don't
do that.
Oh, there it goes.
I don't have that
You-
issue.
It's still like that with these. It's
Man,
still
my
like
BlackBerry was like, email.
Well, the iPhone was like that too. Boom, boom, boom.
It just worked, man.
Sure, you had to do horrible things to get one, but
There's a couple people who've been putting out ROMs for.
Well, yeah, and this one is not going to get to 2.2.
Is that in your, is it,
2.1.
There's somebody else who has a ROM for it already. I saw it. Is that in your Coke?
Yeah. It was in our freezer. It's been in there for like 2 years. Thought I might as well use it. Little tiny thing from Crown Road.
Oh no! What you need to try? You need to pick up some 360 vodka. It's a green vodka. I mean, it's
You say green and you look at me. What is that? What is that?
Makes you pee green?
hybrid boy.
No, he's totally human.
No, you pick up some 360 vanilla vodka and mix it with Dr. Pepper. It is, if you like the flavor of
So
vanilla.
that's what Kiss is drinking on stage in that commercial.
this is the first step on the road to the
Okay.
gold drink drunk. So you'll be making exotic displays out of coconuts and stuff. How far
No,
down
I
you
just
gonna
wear
go
it
down
like
the
this
road?
with little ropes.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
No,
So-
actually it's yummy.
Kevin,
Picking these up, it's not bad.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I had
if I was to take a cab from the airport
but
to
they got the
this
new one, the,
location,
Those 279.
is there different rates that they can
Free
choose?
shipping.
That's like,
They got the
Okay.
8-inch touchscreen, which is like the iPad. But
All right.
the problem is they're all resistive touchscreen.
If you're going to a hotel,
What does that
there's
mean?
charge.
They're not capacitive.
Otherwise it's.
You actually have to push down on like open.
Yeah, it was a
buttons
meter.
and stuff. But it's $100 for
is
the
it
Okay.
like a super crazy nose? Like the
It's-
buggy?
You have to get used to it, but they have to get used to it again. But the M001 comes
I
with a
paid
really nice
14
ebook
something.
called Keto, which is just.
Okay. I just kind of curious.
$97, man.
As I was in California.
$93. You
That's
get
tough.
Android.
Okay.
An Android tablet, 7-inch
If you got
Android
ripped
tablet.
off,
Yeah.
$97.
Well, you get the 9930 for the
Huh?
one that's got the.
If you got ripped off, it was like
arm in it, too.
And it's a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he punched something on the display and it said 75. And
Alright,
This is
turn
much
the meter
different.
on, it'll say $1.95.
something, yeah.
Hit
Yeah.
another button 3
Most of these
times,
can't go to
that's 25 each time.
2.
Yeah.
What is the reason for me not just getting like a Linux
Oh,
tablet?
okay.
75 is probably right.
Okay.
Might even be low.
Like a tablet computer that would run
Yeah.
it.
Well, it was like 2:30 in the morning.
Is
There's quite a
Android
few.
nice just because it's
Doesn't matter.
designed for that kind of a device,
Yeah.
that kind of interface, or?
Yeah, our flight got in really late.
Because they spent a lot of time. Boots
Yes,
is working on their
mostly.
version for tablets and stuff. Supposed to be coming along.
He
But
kinda got
obviously,
scared
since
where I
it's
told him where to
already
go.
so hot and
Well,
your
it
Linux
wasn't a
unless
hotel,
Red
yeah.
Debian
Yeah,
doesn't run.
exactly.
It's-
We went to. I took him to our parking garage down here, which is in an alley.
English touchscreen.
He's
Problem
just
is
sorta
the
like,
battery life in this thing,
Is
4
this
hours
right?
tops.
Yeah, just
That's
turn around the
tops.
corner and
That's assuming you
stop.
don't do much.
Dude, that's not a whole.
I know it
lot
looks
shorter
shady,
than
but
this.
haven't
I want you
figured out
parked
the battery
here
life
so I can
of
get close to
this
the door.
Yeah, unless I'm playing trap, I go all
Don't
day
wanna
on this
walk
without
down
issue.
this alley.
Talking, playing games.
Because we
Well,
parked the car in the parking
was-
garage when we left town.
I was used to.
So we
forgetting
didn't have to
plug my BlackBerry
have the
in
ride
for 2
all the
days
way
at a
home
time
across
overnight.
town. So.
Yeah,
No
Yeah,
problem.
you know, if you go back to
This
the ones,
guy-
go back to the ones with the AA battery, you'll last.
Yeah,
a
we
week.
were in LA,
Isn't that funny?
and we're at the hotel. It's like trying to figure out where to go to this restaurant Friday night.
3,500
It's just
milliamp
like-
hours. This one's got like 1450.
You look at the directions and it says, "Okay, get on the 110."
Maybe
It's
a
like
ticking time bomb.
I'm not getting on the freeway to walk.
Explode in my pocket.
No, it's
So I just walked up to the guy at the hotel. I said, "I need a cab." It's like
We've had a bunch of our Apple batteries.
I mean, they didn't
probably have
notice it.
accounts down at the-
Yeah, there was like
Explode,
4 or
just
5 of them parked near the
It's an
hotel.
Asian
For
business
what?
hotel.
For what?
LA, they probably have
I mean,
They
that-
go
There's a
back.
JW Marriott next to the Ritz
The
Carlton.
MacBook replaceable batteries.
Yeah.
17 and 15-inch ones.
But then you walked away
They-
before
they
I could give the.
pop. The case
hotel
pops
guy
and
the
they
tip.
expand. They don't ever pop. They
You
explode.
had to jump in a car and.
But
yeah.
you'll see.
You jumped in a car to move it, and
It's
it's like,
around our office,
what?
and they're
Oh well.
Oh, that was
they're
the
like
valet.
3 to 4 inches thick.
Well, no,
It's
he
like,
was in charge of
when did
everybody.
they
He was wearing the
stop
suit.
it?
Everybody else was wearing the regular
I told
uniform.
the guy, I actually set a book up beside it, because I sit across from the guy that
Yeah.
had them. I put a book in between him and the between me and the batteries.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That way,
The concierge
When it
inside
blows.
was in front.
I'm protected.
I'm protected, you know.
Well,
I'm protected.
Well,
by-
someone's got to
That
be able to
was
call
somebody was already
911.
there,
See?
but he was directing people outside to do
Yeah.
stuff. So I don't
So,
know.
yeah.
I just thought it was interesting.
No, concierge
I
is
bet we
everything.
need
It's
some
all
people that got this flat.
the valet guys, they know where most everything's
I
at.
think everything is cheap. That's Dealer Street's whole motto.
Well, they had a lot of cars coming through, people getting in and out, and
I like the
Yeah.
keychain thingers.
other cars,
Yeah.
nice cars.
We said
Yeah.
Great.
Went to Anime Expo all last weekend.
Ooh.
There's probably 100 and some thousand people there
Ooh, you got top billing even.
over 4 days.
Straight. As much work as I put in that.
Saturday was crazy.
Hardest working
It was
man
just really
actually-
super busy.
You've read Alan Hayter?
The button on top.
What is that?
Alan?
It's his screen name.
You're lucky you can even read it. Come on. I don't
Oh, I knew it.
I don't write very much.
I got a clue from that. So how is the certification doing?
It's not doing too bad. Very, very well in Japan. Big, big push in Japan. North America's
You
a
probably LPI probably translates something like "get sexy girl" or something over there. Probably some everyone's
anime.
going there and like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I heard they like the Chone command.
Yeah. They got Zilla commands, so they kill.
Guy! Mangojilla! Welcome to the July Omaha Linux Users Group. I know a few people showed up for the last meeting, but it was canceled due to weather. We sat around and watched the weather map for a while before we decided to leave the building, because it was quite fun outside. I couldn't see across the street, it was that bad.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Gosh, I don't really have any announcements. Well, one announcement I'll save it till the end.
Save it to the end.
I'll say, yeah, I will save it to the end.
All right.
Okay,
Rock on, Wayne.
thank you.
Party on burn.
So how many people have used a telescope?
Been a long time.
I've seen one.
I've got 2 now.
Never forgive my mother for selling that in a garage sale.
I got a new one. It's like this big.
Was it a good telescope?
Is that the stand or the
No.
telescope?
That's the scope.
Yeah.
If I rotate it all the
30
way
years
up,
ago,
it's a
it was
10-inch.
$100 telescope,
Yeah.
which was
So-
the bomb then, right?
That's kind of nice.
Sold my Counter 64 too.
I got it from Orion. They had a build your own scope thing where you could choose the individual parts for the scope. So it was pretty nice.
Where'd
They
you
have,
get it, John?
I got it from Orion Telescopes. I ordered direct.
Is it like the new egg of telescopes?
You didn't grind
Well,
your own like a man.
Here's the thing. No. Now, one of my coworkers actually did make his own back in the 60s. He said that there was a guy on the street corner by the name of. No, this is true. Okay,
Yeah, open up his code, he had a telescope.
his name was Jon Dobson, and he was doing demonstrations and teaching people how to build telescopes. It's behind that little panel on that
Build your
table
own
right there.
telescopes, that's pretty
Yeah. So essentially, you get the. Hey Joe, can you scoot forward a little bit? So you'd buy those concrete tubes for doing the pilings in the ground, the round ones,
Yeah.
right? The sonotubes, right? So you buy one of those tubes, and he would show you how to ground the mirror down and everything. So Mark tells the story much better because the guy was like, "Can I still sleep at your house?" Because he's essentially like a hippie. It was San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
He was showing people how to build
Is
telescopes.
this Richard Stallman?
Close.
That's what you need.
Just
Anyway,
Yeah.
this type of scope I bought is known as a Dobsonian after John Dobson
Huh.
because it is inexpensive to build and stuff like that. I have an equatorial, but that one's really kind of a pain to work with because you have to use all these knobs and stuff. So I'm trying to combine my telescope astronomy stuff with Linux. And I do not have a motor controller yet. I don't know if I will. That seems kind of complicated. But there are ways to control the telescope with software if you want to. So there are a few packages that you can get in all the distributions nowadays. And most of them are like SkyChart or Cartes de Ciel, as Bob Dunn would say. Bob was going to be here, but he's suddenly had to leave the country. He's in France with his family. So it was a planned vacation. It was not a...
Was
there
there
something I should know?
Yeah.
Actually, I got this email that said, this Picasso web album has been updated. And it's like, nobody I recognize. The username was like a whole bunch of numbers. It's like, what? Is this spam? Suddenly I'm watching a spam? And I couldn't see it on my cell phone. So it wasn't until I got home and looked at it yesterday and pulled the pictures up that I noticed it was Bob's kids. So it's just like, oh, okay, it's Bob. Because he was writing everything in French on the pictures. So I couldn't understand it. Bob's in the Omaha Astronomical Society is with me. He used to do the telescope checkout. He was the maintainer of the scopes for the club. And they've got like 6 or 7 scopes. So if you don't own one, you can actually rent one out if you are a member.
Is that still the case?
Yeah. It's like $25 for a membership a year. It's pretty reasonable. And that hasn't changed. I was a member for a brief time in like '98, and it was the same price.
What's the URL?
OmahaAstro.com.
Is Jeff using that thing still,
Just
Hmm?
the webmaster for Jeff.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
Yeah, working on it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Smart dude.
Yeah, and he's been doing the Twitter stuff too, I believe. So that's been in the last 6 months. They've been doing Twitter's tweets.
It's dark out? No. Outside.
Well, last
Next
week,
meeting is the
Friday.
This Friday.
So one tweet he did last week was IAS is going to be overhead Omaha coming out of the west at 9:15.
Cool.
So that was kind of a neat thing to know. Since then, I bought an app for the phone that will tell me all that stuff. So I can show you later. A lot of these have a long pedigree. Some are newer, some are old. Red mode is not really a program. It's actually a bash script. And we'll kind of see that. Boy, I'm going to turn the light off, because that's way too dark. Yeah, that's still too dark. Oh well. That's what you get for working with a night thing. Stellarium is a very pretty package. It actually runs on most operating systems. It does use OpenGL, so it can tax your GPU a little bit, especially if you only have an Intel laptop.
Is that kind of the granddaddy of them?
No, that one's more recent.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
You
cool.
could-
That's a cool program.
Yeah, you can actually add 210 million extra items rather than the built-in stuff that you get. And it will list deep sky objects. Let's pull that up here. Come on.
Pikachu.
I think my laptop just died.
No.
Okay. This is actually red mode, all this stuff.
Why?
Because red is good for night vision. The wavelength is different, so you can see things better. So you always have a red flashlight and stuff like that.
Also, doesn't work your night vision when you turn the light off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you wear the
So-
eye patch.
Yeah, that's good for observing, so that you're only using one eye for the eyepiece. Some people buy binocular eyepiece adapters, but that means they have to buy 2 eyepieces at like $250 a piece. So, yeah, some of the eyepieces can get pretty darn expensive.
they're not open source.
Not for lenses. Okay, so I'm now looking out of the south.
Charge items and give the information away.
We can throw up the equatorial grid. Probably not look too good on here because it's pretty light.
You can see that 10 degree.
Yeah, there's a lot of light reflection, but here you can turn on the old
That's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
constellation images.
That's awesome. Oh.
Rock on, man.
Yeah. Let's turn those off. We'll turn on the labels and the lines themselves. So this is actually red mode. Where do I turn that off? I can't remember how to turn that on. There it is. So this is just regular mode. So this would be,
Oh, good.
this is this date and this time. So you can actually click on an item. It'll do a nice little animation. It'll actually keep updating all that stuff in real time. If you wanted to, you can punch these numbers into your telescope, or if you have one, and use the setting dials to dial it in if you have an equatorial now. If it's a Dobsonian, you just crank it over towards it. This software is kind of neat in that it actually simulates atmosphere, so the stars will flicker on the screen. That's why it has that kind of
As
effect.
if you were looking through the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. So you can actually put in a specific date and time. So if we change this to,
Right.
you know what? I think my location's off.
What gives you that idea?
Where am I? I am in Paris, France.
Awesome.
Wee.
Maybe that would be why it's nighttime and not daytime in my picture. So let's go down here and find United States.
That again?
Let's do
Homer.
Omaha. Let's see.
More than one Omaha, though.
Oh, there you go. Go pick it.
Where's the other one at?
There's an Omaha, Texas. There's an Omaha, Illinois.
Okay.
Arkansas.
There's an Omaha, Arkansas.
Okay.
There's everything Texas, right? Every
So
city
now,
exists in the nation.
This is set for Omaha.
In Texas.
Moscow.
There's a Moscow, Texas.
Yes.
One of the
Moscow's in the U.S.
yeah.
And one's in Texas. Yeah, there's at least 3 other Omaha.
If you want, you can take a picture of your horizon and throw it into the software.
Oh,
So you have the real horizon if you want.
That's pretty cool.
So you've got your local landmarks,
Exactly.
so what you see is what you'll see if you.
So
look
if you
at
always
it.
go out to the
It's
same
WYSIWYG.
site all the time, you can take the pictures and
Or
throw
look
them in.
out the same window or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So this is right now. Now that I have the right location, let's change the date. Let's
It's summer, so we see Scorpius there. This
we
is
go.
a view out my bedroom window when I was growing up right there. The southern sky.
here's the teapot, Sagittarius. I'll move that up so you can see it.
Watch Scorpius come up on Orion, go down.
This is probably the most populated area down in here in the terms of deep sky objects because Milky Way runs in that area.
So it's like New Delhi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the night sky.
We'll show the Milky Way.
Twinkle.
Simulate light speed. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but
Go really fast.
markings.
Scale the
Grid.
moon, what is that? Your sky, what does scale moon mean?
I don't remember. There's the star lore. Actually has a lot of stuff in descriptions, which is kind of neat. So you can choose your
Oh. okay.
region.
Can I have it show me like Chinese constellations?
Use this sky culture as the default. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's international. Here's where I talked about the landscape. So there's different place. You can actually choose the moon if you want. So you have moonscape, right?
I just don't see her.
Saturn. So you can do trees, but go back to there.
You would see, yeah, you would see anything.
So here's your search window. I don't think Mars is actually up. Oh, there it is.
I read
As of
yesterday
manifest.
that
Yeah?
So you actually be able to see it then?
Yeah, and you can actually see it with normal civilian telescope.
Wow.
So here's where you can see an approximation of the sun still has some effect. It reflects that in the sky. So you can look straight up. Come on, Polaris. There we go.
Yeah.
The northern
That
star.
would be Polaris.
Oh, okay.
That's straight up. Polaris, if I remember right, would be at about a 30, 40 degree angle from the
I thought the
horizon.
last two stars in the Big Dipper were supposed to point at Polaris.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Little Dipper.
I thought it was the last star in the.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hold on. I thought this was Polaris.
What country? We're still in
I
China.
thought that was Polaris.
We got to switch back to.
Oh,
We were
There
still
you
in
go.
China.
that was.
I knew the star. It just wasn't labeling it correctly because it thought we were Chinese. So, is that better?
First one in the.
I'm not Chinese.
Yeah.
North.
The constellations look a little bit different. See, here's Ursa Major. It's more than just the Big Dipper. The Greater Bear versus the Small Bear. So you can go, womp, there's the bear,
Oh, cool.
right? Cassiopeia. I love Cassiopeia. Take the 2. Well, it's the easiest way to find M31, which is the Andromeda Galaxy. But it looks like it's behind this building. So,
Change your time.
search window.
It's in the grass.
Maybe a little bit farther in the ground there. Let's change our date and time. Let's go like 1:52 in the morning.
Andromeda. That guy's built on
Yep.
fish looking
Is it over here? As you can see, if you keep clicking, you're always going to find something. So here's your configuration. This might actually take a minute for it to come up. All available. Here's your navigation, keyboard or mouse. How to do your dates and times. Gravity labels. I haven't. Interesting. Invert your colors if you want. Get catalog 5 of 9. So you can actually, this is a 17 meg download and adds up to 1.7 million stars. So it gives you a lot darker, for magnitude means, what you can see. And the higher the number, the darker, the fainter it is. Right?
So if you go out into the country,
Yeah, so Venus is like -4 because Venus is so bright in terms of magnitude.
Does this thing know about the common comets?
I think there could be a plugin that you can download and do it.
The well-known
Yeah.
orbital ones.
So here's like satellites, prediction of artificial satellite positions in orthobase beta, NORAD data. Right, here's telescope control.
The satellite one, does that include the International Space Station?
Oh, probably.
Maybe it should,
Yeah.
even if it's not a communication.
So I can say load at startup. Load that up. So this is.
It's kind of fun to watch it transit across something like the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be lucky enough to get that spot.
But yeah, it tends to, considering that it actually shows you how many frames per second that you're running, goes to show that it can actually run the system for a while. I mean, I think it will heat up the laptop if you use it for lengths of time. There's Jupiter.
Uranus.
You actually saw them correct themselves real quick there. But it's such a neat little program. It just runs pretty well. Turn off the names. So here's switch between equatorial and azimuth mounting. There's nebulas, so it'll show nebulas. These are all the yellow ones. I've actually used this program more than the next one that we'll talk about. You can use the mouse to zoom in and out.
You know what would be really neat? If you could click on a star or a nebula or whatever celestial body and get like a zoomed in picture from Hubble or some other
That would be cool.
That's Celestia.
Yep.
Ah,
Is that on the list?
Yes, it's on the list. So you can also do a time. So I'm going to increase the time and let it do its thing. So if we look down to the horizon as it progresses, you can get a better idea. Say, okay, such and such is going to rise at this time versus having to search for it and look to see what time it's going to show up. Yep. Night mode again. Changes the colors.
Puts a
So-
red filter over the whole thing.
Yeah, the software does it itself. So this is full screen mode versus windowed mode. You can switch back and forth.
Although if you're doing night mode, I don't know why you wouldn't go full screen.
Right. You'd want to stick at full screen.
I like how the stars twinkle.
Ow.
Yeah. That's the problem with these astronomy software. Is it's always dark, right? So that was Stellarium. It's pretty neat. It's a cool little package to have. Now this one has been around for a while, just because of the look of it. It kind of has that early 2000s widget set in there. It has been redone as GPL version 3. It also runs on Linux, Mac, and Windows. And it does have downloads to extend the database. But what I really like is you can find what you want at a given date and time and location, and you can save it as an image. So if you want to, you can just print out the images and use those. So you don't have to take your computer with you. You can do all your planning ahead of time before you go out.
If you do a transparency, that would be cool.
Actually, there's some cool things that they do with that. There's a you can get a certain spotting scope for your telescope called a Telrad mount, and it's a series of concentric circles that are always like a certain distance apart. And what you do is you lay the transparency on your star map, and then you look through the finder scope and you count between the circle lines, since it's like a reticle. So you can say, okay, I need to go X amount, and then you just move it up slightly. I've seen somebody use it. I'm not quite familiar with it, but all I know is that everybody wants to use them. So this is a sky chart. Let's find the button. This one has a lot more little buttons, as you may have noticed. It's sort of like the busy. But red mode is not really enabled on this right now, but here's red mode when it is. You still get white dots though, that's kind of annoying with it. But here's our Andromeda galaxy right there. You have your different field of views, so there's like 45 degrees and 90 degrees. And there is a, where is it? So there's south, east, west. This one doesn't really move with the mouse going around. You're selecting and zooming in on items. That's a handy sound. So, not sure what blinking picture is. This one also uses the mouse wheel to scroll in and out. This one's a bit more complex than Stellarium, so it's not as fun to play with. You kind of got to spend a little bit more time on working on it.
That connect telescope option? Talk
Yeah.
about that a little
That's the same as in Stellarium, where you actually have a daemon that runs on the system that talks through a serial port. So if you have an equatorial mount telescope, essentially what they call a go-to scope, you can click on something, you say go to it, and it'll instruct it to say slew the motor X amount of degrees. And if you have your telescope set up, your north polar alignment, and some of the even newer ones have GPS, where you just push the button and it aligns everything up. It'll just slew the scope, and it should say, okay, if you look through it, you'll see this object. I mean, that's the ultimate in point and click. Now, what some people do with that telescope connection stuff is they'll buy cheap webcams and modify them. They'll take the lens off of them, and sometimes they'll remove the IR filter if it's not integrated into the lens. And you get you remember the old 35 millimeter film canisters, those plastic ones? It's the same size as the eyepiece receptacle on the telescope. So they'll mount those onto the webcam and shove them in the eyepiece hole. And then they'll just do a live picture on the laptop, and they'll just do everything from the laptop. Watch it. You'll get some noise because the webcams aren't the greatest because they're not CCD, they're CMOS. So, but it works. There have been pictures of the International Space Station going in front of the sun that people have done that method, where they just track it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you can change your coordinates. Here's your grids. I've got all the objects turned on. So you can say less stars or more stars. You can actually change your sky background color to blue if that's a little bit easier for you to view on. Oops. Press OK to ignore and risk data corruption. Awesome. Well, it didn't do anything, so I guess it's a little unstable. So here's your calendar for Omaha. What time there certain things are, in both astronomical and nautical. So here's your, if we choose what's today? Can we choose that?
Today's not last September.
Okay, there we go. Oops. Oh, so that does a whole week. So this isn't compensating for daylight savings time, but 9:21 evening twilight.
That's 10:21.
Right, but I'm adjusting for the daylight savings time.
Oh.
So here's when your planets are going to be around, where they're going to be at. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, any comets, asteroids, eclipses, lunar eclipses. So these are going to go out a few years. There's 2013. There's 2100. So I guess the world doesn't end in 2012.
We're to the stars.
Yep, that's kind of neat. So that's that program. Now this is an oldie. You notice that the version 2.5 came out in '93. It's motif based. I do not have an example of this. Bob was going to bring an example.
Does it compile up with Lusty?
I think so. It might. I didn't even bother looking for it in repositories. I mean, the interface is really, it's like a Windows 3.1 interface. A little hard to work on. But it is not GPL. So you can only use it for personal or educational use, which pretty much covers everybody. I mean, if you're commercial, you're going to be using some of the big stuff. K-stars. We've been looking at a little bit of GNOME-based items. KStars is a KDE app. I did not install it. It's just similar to SkyChart. It does the same thing. I've never actually used it, but it's out there. This is kind of fun. The Virtual Moon Atlas. It is distributed as a pre-compiled binary on their website for GTK. I have not found a pre-compiled package, so there's no source that I've been able to find yet. No. So let's see. Virtual Moon. I'm just not having any luck with that stuff, am I? What? Are you booing me?
No, boo. You take boo.
Good cover.
It's probably some really odd package name, you know? We just have to go. User local share virtual.
Doc.
Yeah, where's the executor?
I don't know. Oh well. I mean, it looks cool. It worked. Maybe an update broke it because I had messed with it last month for the presentation. Okay, the one that everybody wants to see because it's awesome and a great little toy. Celestia. Now, I'd messed with this for years. It's a great little eye candy app, stuff like that.
Come on, put up the Death Star. Come on.
And about 6 months ago,
That's no movie.
a friend of mine told me that there was a separate site to download stuff. I mean, if you want the whole 40 gig Mars map, you can put it in this package, and it will show you the high-res pics. But I haven't had a machine fast enough probably till recently to be able to try it. And you can choose any speed, and I mean that's in the terms of time. You can really speed up how fast the thing runs. And I'm not sure how well it's going to run on this because I do not have an NVIDIA card in this laptop. Hey, I actually heard my fan start to spin up. So here's the Earth. If you grab it with the left mouse, it just moves the whole screen. If you grab it with the right mouse, it rotates around. These settings for the clouds can all be changed. Let's see, view options. Here's all the view options for this. Comet tails, clouds, magnitude, atmosphere, so you can turn off atmosphere if you want. That's gone. Turn off clouds. Clouds disappear. Here's Hawaii. All the nebulas. Filtering stars. You can actually do more light if you want. Asteroid, comet orbits. Asteroids might be a little bit too many, but yes, there are spacecraft in this program. So, if you say, well, I don't know if it was that one. Here, let's type in Jupiter. Go. Okay.
Very dark out.
A little too close to Jupiter.
Whoa! Look at the speck on.
You're inside.
So you can see some of the moons right here. Let's see, how do I turn on? There we go, orbits.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, Jupiter has quite a few items around it. You zoom out a little bit. That's the Jupiter system.
Holy crap.
Yeah, isn't that quite a few?
God, what a pig.
Yeah. Metis. Theb. So yeah. I mean the image quality is really, really nice. But I mean like I said, there's still higher res that you can get. So if we let's go to Saturn. So here's your distance in astronomical units.
Gotta go out again
Uh,
or in?
Do we have to zoom in?
Follow the Saturn.
let's see. Center the selection. I'm still trying to zoom out. It was a bad decision to go to Saturn.
I've heard that before.
Ooh.
Oh.
Ooh, I think he's lost it.
I killed it.
That'll teach you to go look at Saturn.
Well, let's do this. Let's do the demo. This is a good showing you what it does. Now you can actually download these scripts and it'll do like virtual tours. People make tours and everything. So it shows you adding the clouds. It has a light, shows lights at the night side. Go to the moon. Watch for the Earth and Sun as we orbit the moon, so they go zooming by.
There's the sun.
Go towards the sun. This is kind of neat. There's a couple of sunspots on there. I'm wondering if there's a project for them to map real sunspots in real time.
Spaceweather.com to get the data.
Yep. It wouldn't be hard to do if they had the right scripts. So here goes the inner solar system. The various orbits. Now it's going to speed up the time. So we're already in September, October, November, December, January, February. We're a year from now. It stopped time. So here's Saturn and all the moons in Saturn. This does look a lot better on an NVIDIA card, I can tell you that. There's a lot of washout on the image.
A little bit of herky-jerky.
Yeah, but not bad. So here's the Death Star. Mimas.
You get the real dust.
You can get the real Death Star. You can get Discovery from 2001 and have that in there too. The Hubble Space Telescope's in there. So now they can look at different size. So here's the Big Dipper. That's kind of dark. So maybe they can add the constellation names. Of course, Saturn is in front of Orion, so we couldn't see it. Southern Cross. So now they're going to turn the galaxy rendering on, so you should be able to see the Sagittarius arm. Of course, it's going to make me
I'm
sick
getting dizzy.
first. Yeah. Well, it'll change here in just a second. There's Andromeda.
The kid's Big Ben, Parliament.
So, So now we're going to travel to Antares in the system.
European vacation.
So there's the light years distance going down. Zoom. Okay, that's 22 astronomical units. So now we're going to leave the galaxy.
About time. Let's dump in.
Going to hell.
If you have certain things turned on, it's really cool how it zooms out. Used to be we would turn on all the constellation mapping, and when you would zoom out, the constellations would be normal for a while until you got so distant that they'd lose their shape, but the lines would still be there. So it's this really cool zoom effect. It's really cool now. It's going to take you back to Earth really, really fast.
Faster than the speed of light.
Yeah. Boop. Demo done. So, get this program. It's a lot of fun to play with.
I thought I just saw CareerLink on there.
Maybe you did.
So which one do you recommend for? And this one obviously is kind of a good for like new users, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
What's that?
But if you're, you know, I'm buying a telescope and I want to do this sort of stuff, are they all pretty much the same as far as functionality goes?
Well, Celestia is more of a let's show it, orbital dynamics and stuff like that, more for education. SkyChart would probably be good, even though it has a big learning curve. But I think Stellarium would be the best to use to play with. SkyChart if you want to print the charts out. But there's sites that will help you do some of that. We'll kind of go through a little bit here in a minute. Red mode is just a bash script. You can't even change it in the appearance stuff. So I know it's in the Fedora repository. I'm not sure about Ubuntu. I think they have something similar. But yeah, use red colors for night vision. Here's a little mention just because the Android phone is Linux. If you have Google SkyMap on the phone, which I hardly suggest everybody do, it will know your location of where you're standing. And then you can pull it up and actually go like this and look at the sky and see the exact spots where you're looking. So if you do a search for a certain item, then you can hold it up to look at it. I played with it about a month after I got our phone back in the wintertime. I spotted every object. I had binoculars and the phone like this. Just doing it all the time. It was just really cool. Pretty amazing. Google Earth does have a sky function so that you can actually just click on it and it'll flip around from the Google Earth and show you the sky, and you can do a lot of stuff. There's like wiki links and it has all sorts of layers just like the regular Google Earth does. But my Google Earth is broken. It won't run on my laptop. The new version has a problem. It crashes out. So I got an S-trace I want to submit to them. So, Stellarium is at stellarium.com. There's SkyChart, Zephim, Virtual Moon Atlas, and Celestia. So, those are the programs that we just covered. This is the real fun. If you go to skymaps.com, you can download a sky map. So like, if you want the month of July, you get it on a piece of paper. It's the circular one, kind of like you see in the magazines. And it has like all the stuff listed on the side. It's a PDF. It's really nice to have. I usually go there, grab one every month. WikiSky, that's kind of a neat, it's essentially like the whole sky. And you can click on it and it interacts with the area that you're clicking on, but it's on a wiki. If you like to chase comets, there's comet chasing from Skyhound. That's kind of nice. Space weather, as Kevin had mentioned earlier. And the website for the Omaha Astronomical Society. The Nebraska Star Party is coming up next month. That's a whole week-long event up near Valentine. It's essentially, it's like the only star party that gets written up in Sky and Telescope as a review of people who've actually gone there. Hmm?
I was just saying it was actually an militant astronomical stuff.
Yeah.
They have a candidate for president. Along with the pirate party.
The Heavens Above website actually has information of like the IAS and satellites crossing overhead, to just kind of like give you an idea. If you put in like your city or your location, it'll set a cookie to remember it, so the next time you go back, it remembers your location. So you don't have to keep typing in your lat long. And Cloudy Nights is just a nice little website information.
At spaceweather.com, they've got a link to, I think it's iPhone app that tells you when anything interesting might be going on.
Hmm.
They got a bunch of interesting stuff if you like looking at stuff up.
I bought one today for my Android phone called Satellite Flyby. It's like $3, and you pull it up and it tells you this is all the stuff in the next couple of days that's going to pass over you. And you can say set a reminder, so it'll buzz at you and say, you know, IS passing overhead in 5 minutes. So that's kind of a neat little app. I hadn't seen that before. Each of these distributions has their own special interest group or wiki section. There's supposed to be a Fedora Astronomy spin specific. They're having problems working out all the particulars with all the different universities or individuals that have written software. There's some specific packages that they want to put in there, but they can't because they're not necessarily licensed. So they're trying to work stuff out. Some of them are just bash scripts. So I've been on their mailing list for probably 3 years, and they still haven't produced anything yet. There's a mail that shows up about every other month, so it's getting there. There's the Ubuntu one, and they're essentially just a mirror of what Debian is anyway, so.
That Fedora link you gave doesn't work.
Really? Is it case sensitive? Because I copied it right out of the browser.
Says there's currently no text on this page.
Fedora
Put a
Astronomy.
slash
Goal of Fedora Astronomy group is to get
at the end. Huh.
I got it to pull up.
What the hell?
You're special.
Wow, he can write a book, but he can't get to a web page.
Ooh, burned.
It doesn't work if you have a slash.
Oh, interesting. Somebody should fix that.
Yeah.
So questions?
So if somebody wants to get started with this, I mean, obviously you covered the software part of it. You want to talk about telescopes and
Sure.
requirements for a little bit? I mean, can I go out on a dark night out in the country with a pair of binoculars and do
Yes.
all this?
Yes. Let's
Go with toilet paper too.
Bring those
Actually, that does because it
blocks
helps
out
you see
the light, right?
Yeah. It actually helps you see the color better. That's pretty sick.
I'd have to convince my wife not to give it to the dog first.
So this is how it
Here's a
works.
neat little book.
You
99 celestial sites for binoculars.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
comment on that.
so that's just all binocular objects. It's actually a spiral bound book. So you fold the cover over, and it's made of paper that if it's get dewy, it's not going to get as bad or damaged or anything like that. Another one that's really nice, you may recognize this publisher, Astronomy Hacks by O'Reilly. That's about that thick, and it's thin paper stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they cover in that book.
Only 2 left in stock. Order
Yeah.
soon.
And they go through everything like, you know, dress warm, do not go alone, do not leave women in the star park alone by themselves when you leave. Always leave with them, you know. I mean, it's just weird stuff that you wouldn't think of, right?
Why wouldn't you want to go alone?
Well, if it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody might come up and club you over the head.
Everywhere I go.
Huh?
You're a scary dude, though.
Yeah, you're safe, dude.
You're timid.
Think about
I'm
it.
capable of taking care
It's
of myself,
dark.
that's true, but
you have a red light and it's dark and everybody can see you, but you can't necessarily see them. So
Now I'm scared.
other things in this book are like, you know, never drive into a star party with your headlights on.
Ooh, that's what
That's like the cardinal rule. Never ever do it. Always have somebody like come out and guide you with a flashlight, right? But it's always best to show up like an hour before the sun goes down. Number one, you can see. And number two, because of the temperature change, your scope needs time to acclimate to the different temperatures. Because the mirrors can take an hour to acclimate. So if like my scope, my big one, they sell fans to reduce that time to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Because all the heavy glass, it heats up. So I have to think about that when I'm going to the Nebraska Star Party next month.
Where is that? In Valentine?
It's near Merritt Reservoir. It's like 27 miles. Nebraska Star Party. It's like 27 miles south of Valentine.
Okay.
Wow.
Which one are you in that picture?
Yeah. I think he's the one on the tall one on the right.
Here's
He's
a
the girl in that. Oh, cool.
yeah.
How many people usually go?
Oh,
Whoa, look at the size of that.
yeah. That's about the size of mine.
Wow.
Wow.
See, here's one of those. Here's one of those motorized mounts, right there. So there's probably guys that will show up with a telescope mounted on their trailer. I mean, there's some pretty big stuff.
I'm sorry, she does look quite butch.
That's hot.
This is a picture from last year. They actually have field school stuff where they tell you how to do certain things, and yeah. So
Okay, so one step past the binocular stage, can you recommend like a good like beginning telescope to someone who wants to get started doing this kind of stuff?
yeah, there's a little one that you can get. I'm gonna go to a hay needle site. Telescope.
An intermediate stage between pair of binoculars and something like this would be a high quality spotting scope.
Yeah,
They'll be a lot cheaper than these full-blown telescopes, but you can get 60x spotting scopes.
And what is a spotting scope?
It's used by people like me that like to control things at long distances, so you can see where bullets is.
Oh,
This-
well, okay, so like I think like a sniper.
Sniper spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
You can get like
And you would just, like,
32x.
We've got that Bushnell
Probably in the
Elite.
neighborhood of $400 or $500.
I think we've got that one.
you can get stuff cheaper than a spotting scope, though.
Oh, that's true, but between a good pair of binoculars and a decent,
If you want to go lightweight, yeah, spotting scope's the way to go because it's small and compact.
well, yeah, and.
Well, how much is like a
It's
decent
great for terrestrial looking and things too.
low end okay, so you explain to me again what a Dobsonian telescope gives you, John.
Okay, so this is just you get a base and a tube, right?
Oh, and then
And you
gotta-
set that anywhere, and you just crank it wherever you want to look. You just
But-
have to line it up.
But that's not gonna come with the actual telescope. This is just a mount. Or it is.
No, and it's
It is,
both
that's
the
whole
tube
thing.
and the mount.
Okay.
Yeah. So these probably start out. Let's see. So if we go to the classics, right? That's a 4.5 for 229.
Oh, wow, those are cheaper than I thought.
Yeah. Now if you go to hay
And that-
needle
and
site,
you'd see some pretty cool things with that scope.
well for a
229.
4.5 you're not really going to see any deep sky stuff. Once you get into the 10 range, then you can see deep sky. But planets and certain other things,
I mean, deep sky, you're talking like out of the solar system. and
nebulas,
stuff.
galaxies,
Okay.
yeah.
But you're just talking about in the solar system.
Yeah.
4.5 would be.
Because you need to be able to resolve the light and have more light gathering power. So and that's where the larger mirrors come into play. So I have a 10. I also have a 4.5. Well, Dobsonians are also considered reflectors, but these are their new ones that they just came out with.
Holy
That's
move.
yeah. That's nothing. Look at this.
No, I think it's something. And what are those?
Somebody apparently has.
That's actually.
That's a 50.
Go big or go home.
That's a 50-inch telescope.
And and when you say 50-inch, that is
It's the
what?
size of the mirror. The,
Right.
The diameter.
the diameter of the mirror.
Good lord.
Yeah.
You never be able to point that at your neighbor's house.
You have to
That's
have.
36. Well, not
And-
without a.
and remember-
If you get the right focal point on
Here's the
Oh
eyepiece,
my god.
right? You have to
What,
have
36
a ladder
there?
to look through that
So
thing.
50 is like that. It's that big.
Yeah.
Wow.
50 inches across is bigger in length than the entire length of the tube of my large 10-inch telescope. The tube on my scope is 48
that,
inches.
it's 4 feet, think about it that way.
Yeah.
4 feet, that's like a
Cross.
8-year-old.
Yeah.
So-
it comes this high.
You always use 8-year-olds for measurement.
This little guy here,
First time I'd ever done it.
That's like 3 8-year-olds.
That's just wrong. This is the first one that I bought. That's on an equatorial
219,
mount.
That's really
I'm
reasonable.
surprised at how cheap those are, I really figured they'd be a lot.
Okay, so this is Orion's site, right? Hayneedle,
Telescope.com. Wonder how much they pay for that.
Hayneedle has telescopes.com.
Scopes.
So they have essentially the
Support your
same,
local company. Ain't needle that.
yeah,
They're
they have the
upstairs
same
from me.
things,
Yep.
except they're a lot cheaper.
Wow.
So there's the Astromaster, 134.
Wait, I've seen that. I've seen that.
You started
movie.
first.
I think I've seen that movie.
You started first.
He went to the
Okay,
movies.
now look at this one here. This is the Next Star.
That's Master 2.
It comes with the battery pack, because
Oh,
this
nice.
is a computerized scope.
That's
Has a
not going
motor.
to connect to your computer, but it has computerized functions. in
It has an aux port.
It could, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it could. Fully computerized mount with Skyline go-to
Oh,
technology.
there you go.
Do they have USB adapters for that stuff?
Yeah, I
now,
was
or
gonna say,
all
what is it
serial?
like a serial? Is it still like a 9-pin serial port for real?
It's like an RJ11 that goes to like a 9-pin.
So you gotta get an adapter, you hook it
So
up.
an adapter. Still though, you're looking at $500 for a computer-controlled telescope. That's pretty cool. I really thought, like you said, I really thought the barrier to entry on that was a lot higher.
35 bucks.
I really thought that anything under 1,000, you're
Yeah.
getting, pretty low-end stuff, elementary school.
First scope telescope, $35.
Free shipping.
Is it like this big? Is it in your keychain?
So, 76 millimeter.
Okay.
Mortgage, put a hole in your roof.
This is a new product for Orion this year.
It's like, I can get it in my attic.
This is the Wi-Fi telescope control module.
There you go.
Okay. That has an iPhone app.
Not too much light pollution around me though. I have to move to the movies. I
So
swear,
you can
I
actually
would-
control your telescope with your phone.
I'd be cutting a hole in my roof and.
Oh, you just put a shed observatory in. That's what I would do. I would do North Dakota. And I drink a lot of beer.
So the next event,
That's required.
yeah, that's a big scope. So there is a star party at Mahoney State Park on the 16th. These are all weather permitting.
You know, what time?
At dusk.
Seems about right.
So, and most people will bring their stuff out. It's amazing how dark it gets at Mahoney. You gotta let your eyes acclimate a little bit, because you
Probably
just
the
get out.
Still get a good deal of city shine at Mahoney.
You still get a lot of city shine, but walking around with a bunch of scopes, if they're not marked, you might run into one. If people are being really
So
quiet.
that's probably the best, like, populated, civilized place to go with the
Yes.
least
Yes.
light pollution, other than
What about
some random field somewhere.
There is a Astronomy in the Parks tour at Lake Zarinsky on the 23rd.
There'll be a little light pollution there.
Yeah, they just set stuff up. I mean, they were supposed to have one downtown, the Heartland American Park, but that got
Oh, this is
rained out.
still the Omaha Astronomy
Yeah,
side, I see.
yeah.
Okay.
So the Bayless Park one was kind of fun. There's Nebraska Star Party. That's over
What
with.
do you mean caves?
Hitchcock Perseids Night is coming up in August. This is the Balin Observatory, which is operated by the UNL, and that's a pretty big scope.
That's in Lincoln, I think.
Yeah, it's outside of Lincoln.
Baylor Observatory. I've
Yeah.
never heard of it.
The way I heard it described last month was, you drive down a road that looks like it hasn't been driven on for years, and the place looks like it's got no upkeep because they haven't had as much money put into it. But they have public nights in the spring and like the fall and the winter, and there'll be like sometimes 200 cars out there.
Astro.unl.edu.
Yeah. And of course, don't forget the Coons Planetarium shows.
Does that even count?
Hmm?
Go back to that, John. The Coons Planetarium shows at Durham.
Yeah.
66th and Dodge.
You know.
Yeah.
In the science book.
That's past it.
It's next to where we have our meetings. Usually, the guys who are running the planetarium are there to open up the room for us, so we can have the meeting. So our next meeting is Friday. There's the club information. Meets the first Friday of every month. There's the officers. So a family is $25 out. You get in with a family membership, and benefits are you get the club newsletter, you're a member of the Astronomical League, and you can check out the club-owned telescopes and access to the land plot that we own south of Omaha and Weeping Water. And that's
How far
$25
south?
a year.
How far south is Weeping Water?
Well, there's a rock quarry and a gun range nearby, so
Yes.
it's pretty far.
We can water gun club.
Yeah, if you go out early
Better
enough,
ones in the state.
well, it's still light out, you hear gunshots a lot.
Yes.
So we went, Bob and I went along about a couple of years ago, and somebody broke the gate off. So because it's gated, so we had to pay to get the gate replaced. We have to pay to have the new gravel put out or paved every so often. But yeah, this is like as of this year, we're now a 501c3. So the meetings are really structured. Like they have a gavel in the meeting. They do treasurer's report, secretary's report, all stuff like that. Old business, new business.
When we gonna start doing that?
I don't know.
Once we become official.
Way more official than what we do here.
Yeah. But yeah, please, if you want, you can come. You can show up and be a guest. It's not a big deal. Bob and I usually will heckle the president from time to time when he's up there, gabbling.
How unlike the old meetings.
So,
Oh, great fight, Pete.
okay, the upcoming.
No, I got one more shot.
Oh, you do?
On that Fedora page that I followed,
Yeah.
they had a really good link to. Oh, that's not true. I just added it, damn it. I just added it. There.
All the packages.
Yeah, they had a really good list of. This is that astronomy group in the Fedora packaging. They had a list of a bunch of other programs, and these are the ones that are already in Fedora.
Yep.
So John went through kind of the big ones, but there's a bunch of other cool ones too. Open Universe, have you ever looked at that one, John?
I haven't looked at that.
So it's a solar system simulation. I remember that one from years ago. They have some pretty cool looking ones.
Mars Sim.
Yeah. So it's something.
Yeah, there's some of the packages they talk about are specific, like image processing,
Yeah.
observing. There's the charts, of course. Data processing. GNU Radio is a software-defined radio framework. So that's probably related to radio astronomy. There's the FIT stuff, Starlab.
What, we do radio?
Telescope control.
Someday I'll rich.
We're gonna buy a
Yeah.
It's a software radio, it's.
Next
$30
Control.
$50,000.
To control your
Really?
next star
We actually use
telescope,
DSPs
night
and
view.
stuff. It's amazing.
A package to control the CCD cameras under Linux.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Still like the one.
It's pretty neat.
That's some good stuff. Now, this is all stuff that's in the Fedora package right now.
Yep.
And then they have another link in this group that's like stuff that's currently in process. Package currently under review right there, and then proposed and Tux Meteor. So anyway, there's some good stuff already. You were saying that they're still working on like a specific astronomy
See why I
release,
mean, like it says, depends on non-free.
but you can get a lot of this already just in the normal Fedora
Yeah.
setup.
This one they've had recent discussions about, so the IRAF. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. And I don't think it's specific to like RPM Fusion. It's all in the regular repos.
Yeah, and if you've got CentOS, like I just did it on this box when it was in Linux. If you have CentOS, if you enable the RPM Fusion repositories, you get Celestia and the Stellarium with it. Or you can always find the URLs or the RPMs on the DAG site. If you Google for RPM space DAG, you'll find a great repository that's in Germany. Keep stuff, man.
DAG meters.
Yes, he has like old Fedora Core 3 boxes laying around. He compiles packages for.
Now,
Stuff on there.
the club actually has one of these, which is a Coronado Solar Telescope. It's this little
solar telescope, specifically for looking at the sun.
specifically for looking at the sun. It's about the tube's about this big around. It's about this big, right?
It's just got a bunch of filters.
Yeah, it has a I think what they call a H filter, big hydrogen filter.
That's how I imagine almost my telescope. I had the sun filter on it, but it actually filters it at the eyepiece. I started hearing the sizzle and pop coming out of it. I took it off.
Yeah,
So
the
let's
newer
all the
ones.
way through with the blocks.
Yeah, it blocks it.
You can buy the large pieces that just go over the end cap.
That's what you really want.
Yeah. But it looks really cool through this little thing. You can see like prominences coming out,
That's awesome.
and like if you're doing an all-day session, like we did an Earth Day session, and like you keep checking back at it because they take a while to move. I mean, all the video is like over hours, but it's just like you see it changing over the day. A lot of people will buy one of these and mount it on their regular scope, so they have both.
If you want to see some really good video of stuff going on the sun, go to spaceweather.com.
Mm-hmm.
They have got
The Soho
CMEs
video
and prominences and sunspots. I mean, they got a great sunspot right now, the Whirlpool sunspot. Looks like a Whirlpool galaxy.
Whoa.
Turning the other direction. And they've got some fantastic
cool.
videos. There's one where there's a prominence, I think it was 10 Earths wide from where it was coming up and where it was going, re-entering the surface.
Wow.
Cool.
It really makes you feel small, and then you consider that our sun is a typical little star.
Right. It's tiny compared to most of them.
Mm-hmm.
I used a Coronado Solar Max
Big
90 to
ones.
image the sunspot.
There's stars out there that have radiuses that would encompass us.
Mm-hmm. And Terry's is one.
Of course, they don't live very long, and they turn into giant black.
I'm going to push Identica again because I can't stop pushing Identica. There's a lot of great open source discussions going on that site. It's a Twitter clone, so you can join and view groups and stuff like that. So like I see all the Ubuntu and all the Fedora stuff. I don't have to follow any specific people; it just shows up. So there's a lot of interesting discussions that go on. It's for those people who don't like IRC.
Yeah, well, you can use your computer, but you can get all sorts of crap. It's amazing.
Mhm.
Imagine people are doing radio telescopes with it.
Wow.
Oh, the new radio is awesome. I'd love to get into it, man, but I was blowing my money on my phone.
Okay, so next month, Jonathan Sharp is going to do a presentation for us. He just confirmed this afternoon before the meeting. He works for a Pen 2. He actually is a Pen 2, I suppose. And I believe he's going to talk about jQuery.
jQuery, yeah.
Yep.
This is a little bit of a, well, there's two angles to this. One is this is a local company. Jonathan lives in Plattsburgh, and he recently started this company. They actually have offices in Denver and Plattsburgh, of course. They're looking to open up an office in Omaha, and they have some office on the East Coast as well. And they focus on doing consulting around the jQuery framework. Now, there's quite a bit of overlap between this and the dynamic language users group, which I think we all know some people in that, so we'll contact them to see if they want to.
I got an email into Jay, so.
What
Okay,
is
good.
jQuery?
jQuery is a JavaScript framework that is used for web development. The big thing, you know, this isn't necessarily Linux specific, but there's a lot of overlap between what we're talking about here. So
There's a lot of web servers that run on
right, and a lot of it's kind of hard to do web development, not know a lot about Linux, but the way, we all learned a long time ago that anybody and their dog can throw up a web page, right? And you learned in
Yeah, I found a few.
yeah, right. Long live GeoCities. They can throw up HTML, and that became really popular. And then people figured out, all right, this crap is really hard to maintain. Let's use a content management system instead. So you had your Django's and back in the day your Mambos, now your Joombas, and now your WordPresses and whatever. And that's all fine and good, unless you want to do something that's outside of that framework. And then you're back to, all right, I got to manage all this code myself. Well, the kind of step in between that, between just doing everything in VI or Notepad, and between giving yourself over to this content management system is a development framework, and it's designed to exist so that multiple developers can maintain a site and maintain a consistent look and feel without having to do kind of everything themselves. And the biggest example I can give is I liken it to, like, if you're doing desktop development, you're not going to sit there and write assembly language programming that's going to talk to your video card to say draw a window here, put an X here, and if they click it, close the window, that kind of stuff. You hand that off to a library that does all that work for you, right? OpenGL, the Qt, GTK, whatever, okay? Think of that for the web. So jQuery is a very, very popular framework that exists for developing websites, and it's written in JavaScript. So you can pull this up and you can say, oh, okay, I want to do this awesome thing in JavaScript rather than write it yourself. You just call this existing function that exists in jQuery.
People would do awesome stuff.
And it does, yeah, I sort of have my own opinions about JavaScript too, but like some of the cool things like drag and drop and some of the stuff that Google does, like on Google Maps and things like that, you can of course do yourself. Go nuts, buy a book on JavaScript and learn it from the ground up, or implement one of these open source frameworks that sort of puts a veil between you and all that stuff, and you just say, I want to do this and I want to do it there.
So this is kind of a collaborative IDE.
Yeah,
thing.
very much IDE-ish.
So
Yep.
somebody like me from way back writing C code in the early '90s, where we have Borland's IDE.
Yeah, it's got all the helper stuff for you, right.
And then you
Think of
have-
it like, you did C stuff back in the 90s, we had to have some string library, right? Because C doesn't come with one. So you either use Borland's or you write your own or something like this. Okay, this is the same kind of thing.
I didn't worry about strings.
Or you ignore strings. But so you can
I didn't.
you can
Somebody
still
else
do
might
all
have.
your normal JavaScript stuff, but all these functions exist to sort of help you out if you want to really take advantage of the power of the language. And there's client-side frameworks, and of course most of the client-side stuff is done in JavaScript, right? So jQuery is currently the most popular client-side framework. There's server-side frameworks as well. A lot of them PHP-based. Cake PHP is one. CodeIgniter is one. We actually have adopted the CodeIgniter framework on the CareerLink side. And when we revamped CareerLink about a year ago, we did the whole thing in PHP with the CodeIgniter framework. And it adopts a development methodology called Model View Controller. So, and what it does is it tries to sort of take a programmer who is very skilled and has all these awesome creative ideas and get them to at least go down a path that a normal human can follow. So you're not in a situation in 5 years where you say, oh, John wrote that piece of code, he's the only one that can maintain it, we better continue to pay him $140,000, because he's the only one that can maintain it.
You make that again?
Yeah, that's sort of one of the nice little benefits of having a setup like that. But it's an interesting company, it's an interesting idea, and I met the guy a couple weeks ago. He's a real interesting guy, and what I wanted to talk about sort of is a little less, here's what my company does, and a little more sort of the state of the industry and the state of the technology with regards to the browsers and the engine implementations. Because if you followed that at all recently, there is a lot of stuff going on the browser side now. I mean, between just like a week ago, I saw that Chrome had officially passed Safari in the most popular browser usage. I mean, IE's still up there, and then Firefox, and now Chrome, and then Safari, and Opera's still in there. And now we're talking about mobile devices, and we talked for a long time about browsers and JavaScript on a Symbian, the big mobile,
They're still around.
the OS that none of us have on our phones, but because we don't live in Europe, So it's very interesting. They're obviously very much up on the technology, and so I think it'll be a pretty interesting talk. He's a pretty neat guy. So that's next month.
That's all for
I
now.
don't know if I wanna throw it to the list or not, or
Okay.
mention it here, but, VMware and thin clients. Anybody wanna see that?
VMware and thin clients. Describe that a little bit more.
In particular, one item, but I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but there's a company that's partnered with VMware, or basically is in bed with VMware, and it's called a Plano device.
PLANO.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
I think I showed it one
Yeah,
day.
you showed it to me.
It's a little box. Literally, it is a little 2-pound box, and is a thin client. All it is a KVM. There's no processor, no hard drive, no nothing. It is a 4-inch by 4-inch by 4-inch box, and it basically boots to a VMware desktop. You know,
Over Ethernet.
over Ethernet. It's just a network
Like
connection.
an iSCSI.
No,
Oh.
it's just an Ethernet connection.
Hmm.
Not even iSCSI. But Eagle Software, the people we partner with. See, we use XEN at the or we use Citrix,
Oh, Citrix.
Zen
Okay.
Server. But we've looked at these devices and they're awesome. They work extremely well, but we're a Citrix shop.
Oh,
But-
sorry.
Not desktop and apps and all that other crap. Just the Zen server, XEN server. But it's just a really neat object that if somebody does have VMware in their environment for desktops, these things are phenomenal. I just didn't know if anybody have an interest in seeing these things.
Does that mean you're talking in September?
That's what I'm trying to find out is because I talked to Eagle about these things. I've seen them a number of times and I like them, but like I said, we're not VMware. But if anybody's interested in seeing it, I can have them
I think
come
it'd be
in.
really cool to have a talk like just about the current state of the art with regards to thin clients in general. I mean, that was such a big thing, back in the day, and then we all got these what essentially amounts to a fat client on our desks. But with the rise of the netbooks and tablets and Android, it seems like we're getting
Rehashing.
devices, that are less and less intelligent, pushing more and more of our
To the cloud.
CPU power and storage and whatever to the cloud. So yeah, if I'm putting a brand new setup in place somewhere for 20 users, what are my thin client options and what is the current state of that art right now? Then that's obviously one example.
Yeah. Would it be okay if I had one of the engineers come out, not the salespeople?
Sure, if they could talk about that
He'd
kind of stuff.
he'd bring up a couple
Some
of
of the
them and
history
show
of
us.
it and how that works and how maybe that's different from other things. And sure, I think it'd
Okay.
be interesting to know.
How about October?
That's fine.
September, I'm gonna be gone.
Because we've all seen the Linux virtual or the terminal server project, right? Just using Xwindows to do that.
Yeah.
Shoot, I have an old Sunray system upstairs that's 15 years old that still works.
Yeah.
Those things are still around.
What do you hook up to?
But you can run the software off a Linux server.
Oh.
And you can. I had an intern a couple years ago get it set up and working, and booted over the network off a Linux server. And you got everything working with sound for some reason. But I got it off eBay like 10 years ago. It works for like $20. Works great.
Yeah, I saw when we had a Sunbox for a while. They had brought the Sunrays in to do the training, and they used Sunrays. And they're like, okay, everybody stand up, move one to the right,
Yeah.
sit down, and plug your card back in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's all like a
All
compact flash
card-based.
card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat stuff. And it's all right now it's all you can do it all in Linux too. Last I knew anyway. Who knows if that's still available with Oracle now. But
Don't get me started on that.
yeah,
Hey,
Sunray
Oracle
1.
is the best thing that ever happened to Sun.
Unless you're
They
my
can't
SQL.
screw up. They can't screw up
Yeah.
any worse than.
That's like saying a
Oracle
wooden
does.
steak is the best thing that ever happened to
Hey.
Dracula. But I know
At least
I know what you
Oracle
mean.
has some goals, some objectives. Sun just.
I know what you mean.
It's-
Sun had the
I'm
best-
amazed
Sun
they
just
last
out there.
Sun had the best
lost its
hardware.
way in the last 10 years, that's definitely.
They had
That's
the
a
best
very
hardware,
nice
best
way to say
software.
that.
They lost their way. Yeah.
They lost their way.
They used to be very focused on doing what they did very well,
Yeah.
and they kicked everybody else's ass.
The Novell guys are looking at them going, man, they're screwing up. That's how you know things are bad.
Well, yeah, if the Novell guys tell you screwed up.
Yeah.
At least we're not as bad as those Sun guys.
Didn't a former Novell guy go and run some?
What before the Oracle thing?
I don't believe so.
Jonathan
No, I thought-
Schwartz was the guy that was running Sun when the Oracle deal.
No, it's Google, Eric Schmidt.
Oh,
Yeah, Eric Schmidt. I was gonna say
He was,
Google's.
he was the Novell CIO for years.
Yeah, so Google should start losing.
No, he was the one, the great article from him a couple years ago was how he had such a change of heart and said for years and years and years, high pitched, big hardware sitting in a corner running, you know, a single operating system, Novell, right? And then he went to Google and it's the king of throwaway hardware, you know, white box everything, spread all over the place.
Yeah, cheap stuff from Taiwan.
That's right.
Philippines.
When it breaks, replace it.
And just have so much of it that is all set up to take over for each other. When something dies, you send a $14 amount of tech,
no
they'll
official.
pull it out and put another
You
one
put a
in.
new $50 part in place, that's
I'm John.
and just plan on the failures, yeah. Just have a business model around the failures.
There's no way you can run operations. Any other, I mean, yeah, you can spend a couple of $1 billion on uber big mainframes.
He's not gonna use it.
DAS device from here to wherever.
You only have one name for him.
I mean, it's just that laptop up there, so the camera removed.
Okay, anybody?
Anyway.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, I think
We're-
that'd be awesome. I'd
Okay.
love to hear about that.
I'll call them and set something up, at least for part of the meeting, for them to show the Plano devices. They're slicker shit and they're easy. They're not cheap, but they're inexpensive.
I never really had any.
I think it's a couple $100
Now.
for each Plano device.
Get stuff, so
And with that, what do you
it's
get?
just a whole new world to me.
Well, basically, it's the device and you get the software to run it from the back end. Now, that doesn't
The
include
only problem is, it's all.
the VMware back end that you also have to have.
Yeah, you can plan something. it's
That's
like,
the expensive piece. I figured out VMware's would run us 25 to 30% more than purchasing Citrix if we were purchasing Citrix.
Take care.
Just a little thin client.
So,
You can probably buy a lot of Sun stuff for $20 nowadays.
I mean, you just you run the software on your Linux box, put that on your network, turn it on.
It will let you walk out the door with it.
I'm totally bidding on
Well,
that.
Get it
whoa,
out of
whoa,
here.
run.
$30.
what is it?
It's a little 15-inch sunroof. thin
Oh, the
client.
Sunray. Any Weiss on them? Okay,
Probably in 90
Anybody
days.
remember the old next stations?
a friend of mine.
Steve Jobs next.
Ah!
Those, yeah.
Best damn
Yep.
computer
80,
operating system there's ever been.
86, 87.
It's even better than OS2.
And that's saying something apparently. What's next, John?
This Friday, since it was a holiday weekend last week, OAS meets on the first Friday of every month, Durham Science Center, room 169, campus. Next meeting is this Friday at 7:30. There is a Q&A at 6:45. I went to the Q&A first time last month and it was hilarious. We had a lot of fun. We actually talked about Stellarium for a bit. So, if I get my presentation tuned up a little bit more, who knows? Maybe I'll talk to. They have a specific guy who's the program chair who does all the programs. And Bob Dunn and I have been wanting to do a open source night of software at OAS. So this is the first steps to try to get that done. Because you have a lot of people who show up. There is a NASA guy who does show up. Chris Russell shows up from time to time from Google. I mean, I got him back into the club. He hadn't renewed, and I got him to come back and renew. So I'm trying to get him to go with me to the Star Party. But you were talking about the next station. Trying to see if I can remember my friend here. There we go. Oh, he's now engineering manager at Google. How about that? That's not surprising.
And who is he?
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
look at that.
He worked for Next.
Yeah. You right after it was
Next computer, current employees.
yeah, current employees.
Yeah.
But yeah,
See, there hasn't been a Next.
it was amazing because he went to CMU, and it was not. He started working for them at the same time, so it was like '89, and he did. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. He also worked for Avant Go. If you remember Avant
I
Go.
remember that.
Yeah. I haven't talked to him in years though. He and his brother used to mow the lawn with gas masks on because they had terrible allergies. So one of those full face masks. And this is his brother Wade. He was the only person at the time that I knew was a licensed pyrotechnician. 4th of July was so much fun at their place.
That's an awesome business card to have.
He's got better toys than even I do.
He used to do demonstrations for the Council Bluffs Police Department on how to properly cuff people.
And how to probably what?
Cuff them.
people?
He was
Too much
Taekwondo.
crosstalk up there. How to do
Cuff them.
handcuff them?
Yeah, take them down and cuff them.
Well, I can tell you how to take that. I never worried about the cuff part.
At that point, you were
Good
just trying to
night.
get away.